Satish wanted to understand what is the difference between RTO and RPO, which is recovery point objective and recovery time objective. So that's why I'm creating this video, because this was mentioned in the comment that he wants to understand how this is done and what is RTO and RPO. So first of all, let us try to understand recovery point objective. Okay. So recovery point objective basically refers to how much data loss can you afford in case of a disaster, in case of a failure of infrastructure equipment, failure of let's say any type of switches, routers, or any infrastructure equipment, servers, and disaster. For example, in case of, let's say, fire, flood, these can be any of the disasters. So in these scenarios, in cases of disasters and failures, how much data loss can you afford is the recovery point objective. It depends upon the last backup that you have taken, the difference between the last backup that you have taken and the disaster, when the disaster has occurred. Okay. So let's say you have taken the last backup 2 hours ago, and after 2 hours the disaster has occurred. So you will lose the data between the last backup and the disaster. So what can you do in order to minimize this situation? You can increase the backup frequency. For example, if certain infrastructure is critical for you, certain you are offering it as a service to your clients or something like that, where you cannot afford a downtime at all. So there you can increase the backup frequency, so that if you have backups every half an hour, then even in case of a disaster, you will only be able to lose at maximum half an hour of information. So data loss, recovery point objective, last backup, all these are termed collectively, because the amount of data loss will depend upon the last backup that you have taken and the time when the disaster has occurred. Okay. Now let's come to the recovery time objective. Okay. Recovery time objective is basically how much time it takes for you to recover to basic functionality. Okay. So that's why I have considered this figure, so that you understand that whenever you are recovering from any disaster, initially it takes time for pulling up all the infrastructure equipment, and it entirely depends upon what kind of disaster recovery modes you have, whether you have hot site or a cold site or a warm site. So in cases like where you have you know a cold site or a warm site, it takes time in order to bring up the infrastructure equipment. That's why in some cases the reaction time will be there, and you won't be having any availability of the infrastructure at that time. And after that, there will be limited availability, basic functionality of certain mission critical services that you want to host. Okay. So that's where you include reaction time, the time that it will take for you to respond, as well as the recovery time which you will take in order to recover to the basic functionality. Okay. So then you can calculate the overall downtime that it took for you to bring back your infrastructure, and the time it takes for you to recover to the limited functionality from the recovery time is the recovery time objective. Okay. So I hope after seeing this picture you must be having some understanding, Satish. And even also you can see one more thing which is mentioned, not mentioned everywhere, is it takes time for you to come to the normal usage. Okay. It will take time. It will not be a case where you will have the normal functionality, full functionality immediately. Okay. You will have first limited functionality, then you will have basic functionality, then you will come to the normal regular usage. It will take time. Okay. And how can you measure these times, and how can you make sure that you are aware about these timings? Is you have to define a process around this, and you have to mention these times. You have to agree upon these times with the management, with the executive teams. You have to make them aware that this is what it takes. If we bring back the entire infrastructure, let's say in case of a fire or a flood, this is how much time it will take to come back to normal usage if something like that happens. Okay. So I'm sure you must have got an understanding now. Still, if you have any questions, feel free to add in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.